Hey you guys, back for week 2 so we can talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing this week. Last week we talked via Skype about the way the image was, or the portrait of a girl with a pearl earring by Vermeer. This week we're going to talk about classism. By this point, you've read up to page 30, I believe, page 29, and you've kind of gotten a sense of Greet, our main character, 16 years old. You've probably gotten a little bit of a feel for Katerina and Vermeer himself, and of course the other maids that are in the house and the other just helpers, and Katerina's mother, I believe Maria Thins. So this week we're going to talk a little bit about classism, meaning the discrimination and segregation of people based on their social and economic classes, okay? So let's start first with where you're going to find all the work. Of course, you know how to get into Blackboard. We'll go this week to week of March 30th. The video that you're watching right now will be right here, which of course you'll figure out because you're watching it. The very first thing you're going to do is go to Girl with a Pearl Earring Week 2 instructions. Stop, it says, to go back and watch the video, which is fine. You're probably already doing that. Step 2 is to reply to the discussion forum. This is important. You need to reply to that discussion before doing any of the work for this week, okay? Step 3 is download the assignment document for this week. Read and annotate. So this week you will be annotating. You're going to have to copy and paste the the sections that you're going to be reading into a Google Doc. It's probably best that you just copy and paste the whole novel at this point. I know you didn't annotate for the first 29 pages, which is fine. We won't go back and do anything with that, but you will be annotating from here on out. So I do highly recommend transferring everything into a Google Doc. Once you've done that, please share it in Google Drive. In your Google Drive, it'll be under your shared with me, of course. It's going to be called 7th Period Honors. This is where your poetry analysis information was, and now there's a folder called Girl with a Pearl Earring. Once you click on that, you'll need to upload that document here so that I can see your annotations, because when you submit them on Blackboard, it won't show me the annotations, not as clearly as it would if I could just open it from Google Docs, okay? So remember, shared with me, 7th Period Honors, Girl with a Pearl Earring, share your annotations here, okay? Alright, so then after you've read and annotated, you're going to respond to the questions on the document. So let's go back. Replying to the discussion forum is first. So let's go back over here. Right underneath the lesson is going to be week 2, discussion 1. Think about classism, discrimination and segregation of people based on their social or economic class. Where do you see that in modern times here in America? So you're going to post your response and then respond to at least one other person's post by next Wednesday, okay? After you've done that, you'll download the document. So let's go ahead and open up that document. So this week we'll be focusing on classism. It's the segregation. We've already talked about what that was. We see a lot of instances of classism through Girl with a Pearl Earring as we follow Greet's experience as the Vermeer's maid. What we also see is a blurring of the class lines as Vermeer becomes more comfortable with Greet. The class lines expand and contract with Katerina and become more obstinate as she becomes more obstinate towards Greet, and Vermeer growing even ever closer. So when we think about classism in the novel, we have to recognize that Vermeer and Katerina and her mother are part of the bourgeoisie. They're higher level, upper class. He doesn't really have a whole lot of money, but her mother does, so that's all that really matters. They do count themselves as upper class. And then Greet comes from the working class, the proletariat. Those are the proper terms for the different class system at the time. They still use it now, but it's used more for in England and things of that nature. So when you think about Katerina, especially what you've read so far and what you will be reading, which is pages 30 through 66 this week, you'll notice that you see a lot of that bourgeois feeling showing in Katerina when she talks to Greet, when she sends her maids to speak to Greet. Everything that she says and does towards Greet is very, very stubborn and upper class. But there are, of course, things about Katerina that are not quite bourgeois. And you'll be asked that question down here about that, and you'll have to identify it, of course. But then you think about Vermeer. Vermeer liked Griet from the very beginning. From the moment he asked her why she separated the vegetables, all the way to now with her working in his studio. You'll see that his level of bourgeois is not quite as upper class as Katerina likes to think that she is. And he associates with Griet a whole lot more than anybody else in the house does. And he starts to blur those lines. He starts to bring himself and Griet to a middle class almost, for lack of a better word, that kind of brings them to the same level, makes them equal, even though we know that Griet is just a maid and Vermeer is an artist. So the very first thing you'll do is read pages 30 through 66, stop at the line break close to the top of the page. The annotations for this week, you're going to identify in those pages at least 5 examples of classism, 3 examples of literary elements. You're going to have to employ those terms that we've been using all year. Everything from the most basic metaphor to the metonymy, right? You have to remember those words. You'll have to go back and look up some of those words. Maybe even look up literarydevices.com, I believe that's what it is. So you have an example of the words and a list so you can remember them. And then identify at least 1 example of foreshadowing. There are some interesting examples of foreshadowing that you will find during this week's reading, and I just want you to find one, and I would like for you to explain it, but if you don't get there, that's fine. We'll talk about it a little later. And the last thing is I want you to summarize everything that you read this week from pages 30 to 66. The second things that you'll be doing is responding to the 3 prompts that are down here. Each one should include at least 1 quote from the text to support your response. Your responses should not be any less than 3 sentences, and that does not include the quote. So if it's 3 sentences, you should have 4 total with the quote, okay? So your questions are, in what way do you see the class difference between Katerina and Griet? Does Katerina truly embody what would be considered an upper bourgeois class, or does she have characteristics that resemble the lower proletariat class? How does Vermeer begin to close the gap between himself and Griet? And then number 3, what classisms can you identify between the maids that already live in the Vermeer's home and Griet? That's important because you'll notice that some of the maids have it out for Griet in a way. And you'll want to identify why and how that could be a symbol or a representation of classism. So that's the work you're doing today, or this week. You're not going to be doing a journal question this week. Once you're done with those assignments, please submit them here under week 2 submission. Please remember that your annotations need to be in Google Drive so that I can see them and I can respond to them. Remember, you can add comments on the side as your annotations, and you just highlight the sentence that you're identifying, okay? So if you have any questions or concerns, or if you need anything from me, please feel free to reach out. You have my phone number. We can do a video conference Wednesday or Friday. We can even do it any other day really for you guys. It's fine. And then, of course, I'm available 8 in the morning until 9 at night on Monday through Friday. Feel free to send me a message over the weekend if necessary. I'll still respond. So just let me know if you guys need any help with anything, okay? I look forward to seeing some of you guys, if possible, this week, and I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say about classism, because it's a really interesting topic, and there's definitely some examples that you'll see here in our modern world, almost comparable to what you'll see in the novel. Okay, so I will see you guys soon. Bye.